Born into a peasant family in the outskirts of Moscow, Vasil Arkhipov probably could have never imagined that he would change someone's life, let alone the lives of millions. Vasily was educated at the Higher Pacific Naval Academy, where he joined the Russian Navy. And this leads me into my other reason why Vasily should be praised. In July of 1961, there was an accident aboard the K-19 submarine. As a result of this accident, a mutiny occurred, and the captain would have been overthrown if it were not for the efforts of Arkhipov. He was the only crewman who took his side. In addition to this, he helped fix the nuclear reactor that was damaged. By doing so, he exposed himself to massive amounts of radiation, possibly deadly amounts of radiation. But he thought it was better for him to die in an effort to save his crewmen than for him to just stay there and do nothing. Vasily was successful in doing this. He ended up fixing the nuclear reactor and getting the ship back, all while avoiding a mutiny. The second and most important reason why I believe Vasily should be praised is because of his involvement in the Cuban Missile Crisis. He was stationed on the Soviet submarine B-59, and on October 27, 1962, the fate of two nations, and quite possibly the world, was in his hands. Tensions between the Soviet Union and America were higher than they ever have been, and Vasily was in the middle of it all. American ships had begun to drop depth charges in an attempt to force the submarine to surface, and because the Soviets on the submarine had no word from Moscow in 3 weeks, they took this as a sign that they were at war. The plans for counterattack on the American ships began. The nuclear torpedoes were ready, and all that had been needed was a unanimous vote from the three officers. Without hesitating, two of them said yes. It was Vasily's turn now. What he would say would decide whether or not the Soviet Union would launch a nuclear attack on America. Vasily said no. One has to understand that in this case, saying no is not such an easy task. When you are under attack and you even have just cause to attack, it is so hard to say no. But Vasily said no. Vasily saw past his safety and thought about how his actions would affect the rest of the world. If Vasily had been a more selfish man, he would have agreed to launch the nuclear torpedo. But Vasily thought about the bigger picture. He knew that if he said yes to launching the torpedo, he would send the two countries and the world into a horrific nuclear war. He was willing to die for what he believed was right. He stated, "As long as I'm on the submarine, we will not launch any nuclear torpedoes." Vasily said no, and I'm doing so he saved millions of lives. It is believed that if the nuclear torpedo had been launched, it could have started an all-out nuclear war between the Soviet Union and the United States. And at this time, both countries had enough nuclear weapons to destroy the world. When discussing the Cuban Missile Crisis in 2002, Robert McNamara, who was U.S. Secretary of Defense during the crisis, stated that we came very close to nuclear war, very close than we knew at the time. Vasily Arkhipov was one of those who prevented the nuclear war. And I think that everyone in America, Russia, and even the world owes a thanks to Vasily Arkhipov. For many, this may be the first time that you've ever heard the name Vasily Arkhipov. But I hope that you do not forget what he did. I hope you do not forget his name. And I hope that you preach his legacy to others as I have done to you today. Thank you.